12th is the launch date for Atlantis, the Hubble Space Telescope link and downlink through satellites to the other NASA centers around the country. A little further up ahead to the right, there's a taller building with antennas up on its roof. Central instrumentation coming up, and among other things, we zero in and recap Hubble flying in May to, Atlantis flying to Hubble, retiring shuttle probably by the end of next year, although Congress may stretch it out, take off a little pressure till 2011. Operations and checkout is next, where we check our landers. The Altair vehicles, they're covered in the back of the booklets, will be checked out in here before going to the moon. And hopefully that'll be open to the public. You can see that getting ready. There are floor-to-ceiling windows up there. A communicator also describing the work going on down there, the work itself, the pieces that are out in front. Off to the left, where the clean room section sticks out further, the ramp over here is where that 65-foot long clean room canister is brought up and down to collect the pieces before it's turned on end. So all the pieces of launched by shuttle so far have made their way up and down there. If you come over with the bus, it'll drop you by the older building behind. You can go upstairs and cross over that third-story walkway to see the real pieces and walk through some mock-ups of the station in the older building. Now up ahead to the right, we're duplicating some active parts of the launch pad so we can test fit them. Towers, swing arms. Cleaned up though, they were unreeled up to the orange and yellow hooks on the left, brought into a 26,000-gallon washing machine. Imagine the quarters that thing would use. You can see the big hot water heater in white on top. The silver pipes that run around here also carry hot water, but these are how we heat the buildings around here in the wintertime. Anything below 50 degrees Fahrenheit is winter to a Floridian. They start shivering. Now up ahead to the left on the skinny edge of the canister rotation facility are 75-foot high doors. The canister's turned on end, put on top of an 8-foot high transporter, and goes down these roads at a top speed of 3 miles an hour. Takes up the entire width of the road too, so honking behind it doesn't help. You're stuck right behind it too. It's happened to us more than once. Something that NASA calls operations. When I was stuck a couple months ago for over 45 minutes, I was using some other words. Can't repeat them. Well, up ahead to the right, there's the long white clean room, originally from Apollo, now redone for the Orion capsule. What's unique, though, is up and to the left of that big silver door of the clean room, there's a double set of windows up in the 3rd and 4th story. Those are the quarters of the astronauts when they come in. They're Holiday Inn, except we don't screw the pictures on the wall. Now when we get in between the two parts of the building up here, you're going to see an archway connecting both sides. On the right side of that archway at ground level, you'll make out a ramp and railing sticking out a bit, where that gas truck is. And that's where the astronauts leave the building on launch day, waving in the press. The Astrovans there. You'll see that too in the IMAX film about the space station. They get on board and then take what would be our normal route to the pad. We're going to go over to Cape Canaveral first, since we have to loop here first. But what would be going through your mind, knowing in 3.5 hours you'll be blasting off the Earth? How about some of the northernmost pads of Cape Canaveral, the Air Force Station? And we'll talk about these in a few minutes when we get off the bus. And just to tantalize you till we drive right around it, over your left shoulder, about the 8 o'clock position, still over the trees from here, 39A with Atlantis. And there is an Atlas V just to the right of there, next by the white building, that'll be launching tomorrow. We'll talk about that. The waters are protected. We have alligator, manatee, and porpoise. And the drawbridge in front of us is important. The huge barge Pegasus makes its way from Louisiana, around Florida, under there to the VAB to deliver the external fuel tanks for shuttle. The same barge used to bring in the first stages of Saturn V's, and nowadays, one of the recovery ships for the boosters brings the barge down, so we may only have one ship to show you. Well, we'll show you the ships. They're both here. A little misty, but off the nose of the bus about 1 o'clock by that last large hangar. 2 white ships with blue stripes on their bows, Liberty Star and Freedom Star. And they're going to be about 260 miles due east off the coast here when we launch Atlantis, going due east to Hubble. To the space station to the northeast, they're about 126 miles off the coast of Jacksonville. Now, when we do get out of the bus, if there happen to be any alligators on the shore, and if they get too curious and head towards us, please get back on 39B. It's now being reworked for Ares Orion. Leave from there. Everything else running south is 42-mile stretch of untouched beaches. Cape Canaveral, Air Force territory. Right across from us, this smaller white tower and lightning mast to the left of it, Pad 41 for the Lockheed Martin Atlas V. The rocket's stacked up in the building on a movable cradle and rolled out to the lightning mast about 24 hours before launch. And that launch tower is in place between the lightning masts. And that's set to launch tomorrow night at 8:31 in the evening with the military communications satellite. Coming down the coast, these gray buildings and launch tower were retired about 4 years ago. Pad 40 used to launch Titan 3s and 4s, and a lot of history took off from there. If you remember the Voyager 1 and 2 probes careening past the outer planets, they're going interstellar and still working. The first Vikings landing on Mars, most recently planetary-wise Cassini, now in orbit around Saturn. Interesting future over here. It's being reworked to become the first private launch pad at Cape Canaveral for the SpaceX project. In a year, they'll be launching single-engine Falcon 1s and up to the heavy lift. shuttle is about half the size, a lot lighter than the Saturn V's, of course, but almost as much thrust. Yeah, just that one set of cables going right to left and a ground line on the right side. Well, things happen quickly with shuttle at liftoff. 6 seconds before liftoff, we light the main engines. At 0 full power, we light the boosters. And those two give us so much thrust, we actually...
Hi, I'm Dave Frame, and I'm master of the Freedom Star. Freedom Star is a solid rocket booster recovery ship that was built by NASA back in 1981 for the primary purpose of recovering the solid rocket boosters from the space shuttle. I'm fortunate enough to work here for 23 years, and I like to think I had one of the coolest jobs on the Space Center, short of being an astronaut. Ships leave port about 24 hours in advance of the launch. Recovery, roll program. And you see the separation of the boosters is about 2 minutes into flight. As they separate, they start their long tumble down. And it seems like those parachutes are never going to open. They start to open around 2 miles above the ocean surface. And the chutes are completely deployed, 3 main parachutes per booster, by the time the booster hits the water. And that's when we spring into action.
Impact. We're proceeding inbound at this time. I watched the nozzle extensions deploy. Let's go in.
We see this 30-foot tower bobbing in the ocean. About 30 foot of them is above the water. About 100 foot is below the water. Once we've done our assessment, we'll launch a boat, one of our MBAR boats, with retrieval team on board. They'll disconnect the parachutes. Those chutes, each of them are recovered on the reels, on parachute reels that we have on our aft deck. We'll recover that thruster with the deck crane. We'll separate its parachute, secure it on deck, and then we're ready to start our dive operation. That dive team is going to be contending with a booster that could be surging up and down in the water as much as 12, 13 feet. Timing's critical, and it's a pretty hazardous job. One of the most dangerous of anybody out here at the Space Center, with the exception, of course, of the astronauts.
Up in front of us, this long side of the countdown clock. It's a lot busier, closer to the launch. You know, we used to have a real Saturn V moon rocket laid out in front of the VAB for so many years it started getting rusty. Finally, we had it restored, built a Saturn Center to house it where we'll leave you later. Where the rocket used to be, we asked NASA if we could use this on the up-close tour as a photo stop. So if you'd like to come off, take some pictures, or ask questions, again, do stay inside the railing area.
Try it out there. You watch it keep up. You have to be this far away.
See if there are people still on scaffolding on the west side here. Coming up to lunchtime, but yeah, just above the big doors at the bottom, that's a double set of scaffolding sticking out, one horizontal. When we go by, look back, and we'll see that rough outline of an orbiter and be able to tell Endeavor's here. Also coming up ahead to the right, our second crawler transporter. The one that brought it out is still by the pad base. These were moving Saturn V's years ago. Finally, we're building a fourth launch platform behind it, a more lightweight one for Ares 1. And ahead to the right here, these white canisters are how we bring the fuel sections from Utah all the way here for the solid boosters back and forth. Takes 4 of those, plus the nose cones and aft skirts to make a booster. Up ahead to the right, under the overpass, a waterway, and sometimes an alligator hangs out here on a mud bank, or not. It isn't Disney. We'll take a look. Never know. And no, too much water. Try the other side when you come back from Saturn V. Up ahead to the left, the towway curves out to meet up with the south end of our north-south 15,000-foot runway. Always trying to land into the wind, decrease ground speed. Airspeed about 220 miles an hour at touchdown, twice that of an airliner. The commander is aiming at dead stick at 2 black stripes at the ends, and those stripes are about the size of this bus. In all the decades landing out here, only one perfect landing in the middle of the stripes. Our first female commander, too, Eileen Collins, flying Columbia about 10 years ago. So she's also hosting a short video to give you an idea what it's like to land out here.
With the runway right over the turn to align with runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center. Altitude 10,000 feet. Altitude 8,500 feet.
Flying is a very demanding job. You have the physical environment that you're in. You have to, be constantly thinking ahead. What's next? What's in my procedures? What's in my checklist? You're very, very busy when you're flying. The T-38 is a great preparation for us to flying the space shuttle, because we're doing a very busy job, high task, running checklists, talking to the other crew members. We also use the T-38s to fly shuttle dive. It's work, it's focusing, it's being very exact in whatever mission that you're doing that day, and it's great training for us.
Well, right in the nest. Giving him a little bit of room to go flying. We'll see him on the way back. 1,000-foot markers. When you're landing, the numbers are getting small. It means you're running out of runway. Stand on the brakes. Even with the multi-billion-dollar spacecraft, all the electronics off to the left, only wind sign.
Yeah, sure.